I'll take my kick in the butt for the NRA. I spent 25 years in the Army and I hunt. And I gave the money back, and I'll tell you what I have been doing. I've been voting for common sense legislation that protects the Second Amendment, but we can do background checks. We can do CDC research. We can make sure we don't have reciprocal carry among states, and we can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only place where those weapons are at.
Sounds logical to me. I mean, we shouldn't allow weapons that are used in war to be on America's streets, to be in the hands of, civilians. Sounds very logical.
Charlamagne the God talks guns, and he really shouldn't. Welcome to another installment of the Connecticut Gun Bench. Today's video is brought to you by P.A.N. Firearms LLC. P.A.N. Firearms for your NRA certification, multifaceted gun training. You can reach us at 203-300-6343 or use our website at www.panfirearmsllc.com. As always, there'll be a link in the description box below. And if you like channel-like content and what I do, you can support me with the link. Everything is appreciated. And PSA, if your comment disappears from my channel or any video that I put out, I'm not doing it. This is a growing problem on this platform where comments on specific channels and specific content seem to disappear. So if it does disappear, I'm not doing it. Let's talk about this. Now, a few days ago here, Charlamagne the God decided to speak out in the controversy surrounding Tim Walz and his military service. Now, the mainstream media has gone to great lengths to flip this thing into you're attacking his service. And the reality is, people are not attacking his service. They are attacking him, embellishing on his service for political gain. If you remember, throughout his run in politics, he referred to himself as a command sergeant major, when in reality he was not. He was command master sergeant. Here's the document here. The Army demoted him because he did not finish the required training to be a command sergeant major, but despite having this document, I assume he has this document because they have to give it to him, he continued to push command sergeant major when he was not. People from his own unit have repeatedly pointed this out. Also, his claim that he took weapons of war into combat. He said this. We've heard him say it. This is now a big thing. And people are now are trying to defend him by once again deflecting to his service. We're not talking about his service. We're talking about what he actually said. He has never been to combat. There's a lot of controversy right now of the fact that he left his unit, retired, supposedly to run for Congress, right as his unit was going to Iraq. The mainstream media tried to deflect that by saying, hey, he didn't know they were going. Well, now we found out that the stop loss was there and they knew that they were going to be deployed and were training for it. So there's a lot of controversy behind this man and what he has said. But as a veteran, I do have a problem with people embellishing on their combat service. It is dishonorable and disrespectful to those who actually went there and have lost life and limb, while others did not yet try to claim it. And he did say so. But what I really want to talk about is Charlamagne the God. I don't know why I call him that, because it's very, it's almost sacrilegious, and it is actually. But he spoke on this issue and tried to interject his gun control points, and all you heard was anti-gun talking point after anti-gun talking point. And quite honestly, he made a fool of himself. I have people who jump into my comment section who don't know the first thing about guns, but then speak as if they do. And it's almost like a waste of time to even reply to them, because you're talking to an NPC, a person who heard it on CNN and just repeats it. But I want to come into this. Obviously, I'm going to have to kind of stop and start it, else, it'll get copywritten. But all I'm doing is using it for commentary. But let's go ahead and listen to what Charlamagne has to say.
Juicing her little ass off.
She be in there making it.
She be in there high off them edibles, just creating. Go ahead, tell her. Donkey of the day for Friday, August 9th goes to CNN correspondent Tom Foreman. Now, I am a person that wants to keep the main thing the main thing. I don't like when folks try to distract me, make me lose focus of what the actual issue is. So it really grinds my gears when I'm watching cable news and I see situations like CNN correspondent Tom Foreman. Now, Governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, who's now Kamala Harris's running mate, has been getting a lot of smoke the last couple of days. His political and military record are under scrutiny. And Senator J.D. Vance accused him of misleading the country about his veteran status because of some comments he made about why weapons of war should not be allowed on the street. Let's listen to what Tim Walz had to say about that.
Hope woke up like many of you did 5 weeks ago and said, Dad, you're the only person I know who's in elected office. You need to stop what's happening with this. I'll take my kick in the butt for the NRA. I spent 25 years in the Army and I hunt. And I gave the money back, and I'll tell you what I have been doing. I've been voting for common sense legislation that protects.
There's that keyword, gun safety, common sense. Once again, he's parroting the anti-gun talking points.
The Second Amendment, but we can do background checks. We can do CDC research. We can make sure we don't have reciprocal carry among states, and we can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only place where those weapons are at.
Sounds logical to me.
Okay, so there it is. His own words out of his own mouth. Weapons of war I carried in war. He's never been to war. Anyone hearing that statement would immediately surmise that he was in combat. He was not. He did not have boots on the ground. Okay? He said it.
Logical to me. I mean, we shouldn't allow weapons that are used in war to be on America's streets, to be in the hands of...
And there's Charlamagne screwing up the first talking point. There are no weapons used in combat on America's streets. The AR-15 is not a weapon of war. It was never used in war. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to push a little further. By definition, an assault weapon, this is their favorite term, assault weapon ban. An assault weapon, by definition, by the government's own definition, is a firearm that can fire in three modes. Fire in three modes. Single shot, 3-round burst, full auto. An AR-15, the one you go into the store and buy, cannot do that. The reason why they can make this correlation between firearms that are carried in actual combat and what you buy at the local store, because they look alike. That's it. That's how they're making this attachment. Because when they say we want to ban assault weapons, what they're talking about, we want to ban semi-automatic firearms. They're just using the slow roll. They're going after the ones that look like the firearms that are carried into combat. Once they get those, then it's going to be any firearm that can take a magazine. And it just goes from there. That's what they're doing. This is the long game being played. But Charlamagne doesn't know what he's talking about, because the firearms that you buy in your local gun store are not the ones that are carried into combat.
Of, civilians. Sounds very logical. We don't want weapons of war on America's streets in the hands of civilians. Sounds like common sense to me, but like I said earlier, J.D. Vance said Tim Walz misled the country about his veteran status. Let's listen to what Senator J.D. Vance had to say.
He has not spent a day in a combat zone. What bothers me about Tim Walz is the stolen valor garbage. Do not pretend to be something that you're not.
Round of applause to J.D. Vance. Round of applause. MAGA Republicans are the best at distractions. They are the best at deflecting. And news networks, for whatever reason, eat out of the palm of their hands because CNN correspondent Tom Foreman decided to fact check what Tim Walz said. Let's listen.
Now, before I play what the CNN correspondent here, because I want to point this out. Charlamagne saying the Republicans are good at deflection. The Democrats are masters of deflection. Masters. Think about every time that somebody would bring up Biden's clearly cognitive decline. What would they say? Well, Trump's declining too. Look, he said this. Immediately, they deflect from Biden to bring it back to Trump. They do it all the time, and they're still doing it. Kamala Harris is hiding from the media right now. Hiding. She just started taking questions from the media, and they're 1 minute stops and starts. She answers a question very aloofly, and then moves on. She has not sat down for one interview. But
Walz did make a comment speaking to a group, he's done it a couple of times, where he has used language that has suggested that he carried weapons in a fighting situation. As you know, with your contact with the military, I know from coming from a military family, there is a difference between being in a combat area, being involved at a time of war, and actually being in a position where people are shooting at you. There is no evidence that at any time Governor Walz was in a position of being shot at, and some of his language could easily be seen to suggest that he was. So that...
Exactly. His language leads the suggestion that he was in combat. Period. That's what you're getting from that. That's what people have a problem with. That, and other than the fact that he claims to be a rank that he wasn't. But once again, deflection, they immediately say, the man served 24 years at the age of 17, fine. So good for him. But he is embellishing his record for political gain.
That is absolutely false when he said that about gun rights out there.
CNN correspondent Tom Foreman said there is no evidence Tim Walz carried weapons in combat. Same thing J.D. Vance brought to the forefront. Now that is a point of political debate on a lot of these cable news networks. This is Lenard Mckelvey, Charlamange the God talking. I have one statement to make about all of this. Who gives a F? Okay, I don't care if Tim Walz did or did not carry weapons of war in combat. You know what
I do. See, people who never served don't understand the depth of how disgraceful that is. That's why he can't see a problem with it. It's not even so much that. Let's look at the broader scope. Walz, for years, has been embellishing his record. He's been pushing that his entire political career. Now, he's been put into potentially a very powerful position. If he's willing to lie about that, what else is he going to lie about? If he's willing to be disingenuous with something so simple that can be checked, that can be fact-checked, and was, what else is he going to be disingenuous about? If Kamala Harris, I assume she vetted him before she brought him on as vice president. If she knew this and brought him on as vice president, what does that say to her character? That's the problem. This is a big deal. Because ultimately, scrape away all the bullshit, he is a liar. And if he's willing to lie about something like this, what else is he going to lie about? What else is he lying about? This is a big deal. That's the problem. And as I said, for people who never served, this is not a big deal. It really isn't. To them, it's not a big deal. To those who did, it is a big deal. It is. It's huge. Okay?
I care about what Tim Walz was actually bringing to the forefront, and that is military-style assault weapons should not be in the hands of civilians. Military-style assault weapons are designed for maximum kills in combat situations, okay? Military-style assault weapons have the ability to fire rapidly and with high accuracy. It makes them beyond dangerous for civilians to have, okay?
Beyond the ignorance that was just spewed there, because once again, as I pointed out way in the beginning, I have to say it again because some people just step right over. The weapons that are used in combat are not available to civilians. Okay? Select fire machine guns are insanely expensive. Yes, you can get one. Remember, machine guns were banned in 1986. George Bush Sr., the father, banned them in 1986. That meant that anything that was produced before then could be transferred after that ban. But you're going to pay through the nose for it. A fully auto, original M16 Select Fire, if your state will allow you to buy it, can go anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000. An M60 original. Be very careful because some of you should know this. There are a lot of machine guns that are parts guns. Parts from other guns, they put it together to make. If you can find an original one, M60, you're paying $70,000, $80,000 for it. Sometimes you can find an Uzi for $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 or some cheap knockoff. But you are going to pay through the nose for it. Not everyone has that kind of money to simply throw away like that. And on top of the fact that you're going to jump through a lot of hoops, a lot of legal hoops to get it. But he is trying to correlate what you see in the stores with what's on the battlefield. And it's a bad comparison because it doesn't exist. But this is an NPC when it comes to these kinds of subjects. There are a lot of people like this. A lot. Who associate. I'm going to throw my dad under the bus because I had to correct him on this. And I just remembered this. Because we were talking about this. And he said, and I said, you know, this assault weapons ban is going to do nothing. He goes, well, I don't think we should have machine guns on the streets. You know, I said, wait a minute. The assault weapon ban has nothing to do with machine guns. And I literally had to give him an education on firearms before he finally, at the end of it, said, oh, now I get it. We need to do that more often. We need to get people better educated on what these people are doing. Okay? They think that some people, not all, think that an assault weapons ban is a ban on machine guns. They, in their minds, are associating what's going on in combat with what's in the stores in your local gun store. And we got to stop that.
Dudes is pulling up with choppers, laying down 15, 20 people at concerts, churches. I don't think there's been a setting in America that hasn't experienced a mass shooting at this point, okay? Military-style assault weapons are the reason we have so many frequent mass shootings.
FBI report. Handguns are the #1 tool for mass shootings. So-called assault rifles, specifically rifles that look like the M16 assault rifles, account for a tiny percentage of mass shootings. Rifles in general, all rifles, account for, once again, I'm going to have to pull the FBI report out and I'll try to put it behind me, but they don't account for more than 15% of all firearm deaths. The majority of mass shootings are carried out with handguns, period. And a majority of those mass shootings are in Democrat-run inner city areas. Chicago, St. Louis, New York, Oakland. I can keep going on and on. All have the same thing in common. They're run by Democrats. That's where the majority of those shootings happen. But those shootings don't get as much notoriety or news time because, well, it just doesn't fit an agenda, and the victims, nobody gives a damn about. Let's be straight up. But he's so wrong here, it's frightening. Okay?
Okay, assault weapons are designed for military use. The primary goal is to neutralize the enemy. They're not necessary for self-defense or hunting or any other civilian activity, but...
And he seems to forget about the riots in L.A. Remember, the Korean greengrocers on top of the roofs of their buildings protecting their property. Once again, I don't know if Charlamagne is just historically inept or he's just so buried into the leftist ideal that he chooses to be that way. You remember the images? I repeatedly put those images out there. Here he is. What's he carrying? But once again, this is NPC behavior.
Republicans don't want to have that conversation because having that conversation means that they have to come up with some type of common sense gun reform, but that's...
Common sense gun reform. There's that buzzword. What does he really mean here? Gun control, gun bans. That's when they say common sense, gun control, gun safety, blah, blah, blah. They're talking about gun bans, but they can't say it like that. Because if they come right out and say, we're just going to straight up ban, gun ban, gun ban, gun ban, they will not get that overall support that they need. But they call it gun safety. They call it common sense. It's not common sense nor gun safety. No gun control measure has ever prevented violent crime. Ever. Ever. Not even the assault weapons ban of the 90s. Okay? None of it. So you got to ask yourself a question. Why did they keep pushing it?
It's not going to happen because the gun lobbyists like the NRA are in the pockets of most of these politicians. Why, CNN, are you not talking about that issue?
Why, Charlamagne, aren't you talking about the fact that anti-gun groups pump just as much, if not more money into anti-gun candidates? Tit for tat, right?
That's the issue. Okay, fact check Tim Walz. Fine. Now, after you fact check him, let's make the main thing the main thing. Let's center the conversation around why weapons of war should not be in the hands of civilians. This is why I applaud MAGA Republicans. The way they can deflect and avoid talking about what we need to be talking about to make cable news talk about what they want to talk about is incredible. Okay?
Yeah. So there it is. Charlamagne, not knowing a damn thing about guns yet, expressing himself as if he's some kind of expert. And that's shocking. But this is the average American who is not a gun owner. This is how they think. This is on full display. They're easily manipulated and run amok. But this is what we end up with. We get people like this who don't know what the hell they're talking about, who are easily manipulated by the talking heads on liberal media. Now, as far as Tim Walz go, he is claiming a rank that he never achieved. Literally, that is a crime. It is also a crime that on a bill that he signed off on, that he pushed and said it's stolen valor bill. He was part of the people that said, yay, we need this bill. Yet he's doing exactly what he advocated for, which is a crime. 2, he is claiming combat service that he never did. That is the core problem that people are having with him, or the people that have a problem with him, because some people just don't care. And they don't care because, once again, partisanship is more important than the truth. But Charlamagne does not know what the hell he's talking about, but he is unfortunately just a slice of the majority of people out there who think just like him, who have the same opinions as him. And I'm just going to put it to you like this. I did 4 years in the Marine Corps, 82 to 86. I joined, literally, I went from graduation 6 days later, I was down in Paris Island, down in the swamp. The biggest event that happened while I was in was the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut, Lebanon at the airport. 2 IEDs, truck bombs, went through the gate. One hit 1st Battalion 8th, and another one hit a French paratrooper unit. I knew a lot of guys who were in that building. When I saw the list of the dead, I'm like, Jesus, I went to school with that guy. God, I just saw him right before he deployed. It was heartbreaking. And this was during my time this happened, but I would never claim to be a veteran of that event or claim some kind of combat award because of that event. I wasn't there. Craziest night I've ever seen at Camp Lejeune. Trust me, I can still see it. I can still see it in my mind. But I wasn't physically at that airport in Lebanon in front of that destroyed building. I wasn't there. So I would never claim it, because it would be disrespectful to those who lost their lives in that building. But let me know what you think. As always, you can leave your comments in the comment section below. And as always, any statements of violence or statements that lead to violence will be removed. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you're notified the next time a video goes live. I'm going to see you on the next one. Peace.